It's a comedy of errors.
Or it's a miracle.
It's a Christmas miracle. Hi, welcome to Momentous Live, episode 62, if you can believe it. I'm Tristan Jutra.
Other way.
And you are?
Oh, me? I'm Jamie Reynolds.
And I'm
then
Greg
down
Williams.
here.
There we go.
And this is Momentous Live.
Yes, very live. A little too live.
A little too live.
Find out more about Momentous, momentous.tv, twitter.com/momentous.tv, facebook.com/momentous.tv, instagram.com/momentous.tv, on YouTube. Search my name and find the Momentous playlist there. I'm going to see if I can say that faster each time. Welcome back to the indomitable Jamie Reynolds. It's been a few months.
Indomitable.
Good to have you back. And Gray, welcome back. Hope everything's all right at the other Momentous HQ. We missed you.
Yeah.
Lots of changes afoot.
Yeah, it's been a tough week. There was a fire, a flood, and some trespassing. So
wow.
Just need some plagues now. Oh, we have a plague.
Trespassing is just a social construct. Sir, don't get me started.
Fair enough. Well, we're happy to have you back, and let's get to it, shall we? We've got a little bit of follow-up. We have our official Momentous UFO correspondent, Jamie Reynolds, with us today to do just a quick follow-up on a story that we've been following personally for a couple of years. I remember when Jamie first brought this whole Air Force video footage to our attention. Was it Air Force, U.S. Air Force, U.S. Navy?
Yeah, I can't remember if it was Navy, Air Force. I think it was Navy, actually. Yeah. Navy pilots, yeah.
And we saw what was called the Tic Tac footage. You want to just quickly sum that up for us, and then what this recent development is we have today?
Sure. Well, the Tic Tac footage, as it's known, was really it was taken in combination with a Navy fighter pilot by the name of David Fravor. And that's really the whole key to this. He is one of the most credible witnesses of a UFO, or in common parlance nowadays, UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon. He came to the forefront about talking about he was in the plane. His another pilot who was flying with him, she came forward and said, yeah, this is legit. We don't know what it was, but this is the thing. And here's the high quality radar images of this thing. And this is what we saw. They didn't get the whole interaction on their camera footage, but it was just a fascinating recount of a UFO encounter by somebody who is trained in observing these types of things. So that combined with a number of other bits of footage, other people coming forward over the last really decades, but just always in the background, it seems. Nobody ever jumped on this topic, but enough people seem lately to have jumped on the topic, and it's gotten to the U.S. Congress, I guess. I don't really know how the U.S. stuff all works, but they're an important body down there, and they have there's enough people in Congress that have said, look, we want to hear about this stuff. We want to hear what is actually going on. We want to do an inquiry, and for the first time in 50 years since the 70s, they're having a public hearing on UFOs. Last time when would that have been? Eisenhower when it was
if it was the 70s, it was probably Nixon.
That was before. I think it was. Yeah, I can't remember who it was. Anyways, but it was all attributed to swamp gas, and just ignore it. Don't worry about it. It got buried. Project Blue Book. It was shut down, but it wasn't shut down. In the end, we realized that this has actually been going on under the radar, as it were. And now now that this has come to light, the Congress is saying, okay, let's really figure out what's going on, apparently. So public hearings are going to happen to try and figure out what is going on, whether it's adversaries, could be Russia, could be China doing stuff. Maybe it's the own US things. Maybe it's Canada. Maybe Canada has come up with some super secret technology, and we're the ones going around buzzing US Navy planes, which seems unlikely. A lot of it seems very unlikely, but they just want to know what it is, because it seems to be evading all air defense that the U.S. has available, and that seems to be somewhat problematic, and it should be problematic. It's a security issue, so that's why it's coming to the forefront. They're just saying, "Hey, let's just figure out what this thing is," and who knows? Who knows what it could be? And I don't think it's aliens. I don't think it's necessarily a race of creatures that have lived on the planets millions of years before us and are secretly underground and can travel through underwater, like what's that movie, The Abyss?
The Abyss, yes.
That kind of thing. I don't think it's any of those things necessarily, but just like they've said in their reports in the US, they don't know either. They're not putting anything. They're not saying it's not aliens. So that at least is kind of interesting.
So is your money on the hollow Earth theory or the hollow moon theory that these guys are all residing in? And then,
I don't really know. I'm very much, a lot as I get older. Yes, I'm old now. I am more along the lines of, hey, I just want to know what's going on.
Mhm.
I'm not really if I had to put my money on something, I really just don't want to bet. I just want to say, hey, let's just figure out what it is. I'm very, very much a science guy. Hey, here's the evidence. Let's figure out what that evidence leads to. And it's always been fascinating. But I'm also fascinated by crop circles, and apparently those are fake too. So, but who knows? They keep coming up, and nobody seems to care anymore. But they keep getting created, so I think that's kind of weird too. But
so some of the unique features that we saw in the footage had to do with the velocity, the changes of direction, the transmedia travel from air to water, and vice versa. Some things that really defy our current understanding of physics. Gray, what's your take on this phenomenon, or what are you hoping to see from these hearings? Do you think they'll actually produce anything of value?
I don't think they will, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of folks in Congress who have been passionate about getting this out in front of people. But when you take a look at some of the folks that are in Congress right now, they have a great deal of difficulty understanding basic concepts. So I don't know that the discussion here is going to be a productive one. I feel like there's going to be a lot of grandstanding. That's American Congress. So I hope I'm wrong about that. But as to what it's going to reveal, I mean, they've been burying this stuff for upwards of almost 70 years.
1947.
Yeah, it feels like it would have been a whole lot easier to tell us if this would have been something that we could have reasonably handled well. So this is either just another step of the cover up, or we're in for a wild ride.
I personally think that they don't know what it is. I think that this is so far out of the realm of their ability to track, to document. I'm not a big fan of UFOs having crashed, and hey, they're UFOs. They're if it's alien spacecraft, they're not just going to crash because they took a left turn when they should have taken a right. Yeah. Again, but I believe that there's some sort of something going on which they just don't understand, which scientists or politicians or Army or Navy just can't say, hey, we just don't know what this is, but there's weird stuff we're seeing all over the place and we can't figure out. The one thing this may do is if some people in power can come up and say, hey, look, we don't know what this is either, but let's put some money into this thing to get better sensors, to get better techniques to track this stuff, to record this stuff. And maybe we'll get enough empirical evidence to say, hey, here's what we think it is. But that's about as close as I think you'll get to anything really coming of it.
Speaking of better sensors in other space-related follow-up,
segue.
NASA releases ridiculously sharp Webb Space Telescope images. The telescope achieved a perfect alignment, according to Webb scientists. Momentous space correspondent Gray Williams. We've been tracking this story for a little while now, and there was a whole lot of things that had to go right for Webb to get set up properly, and now we're finally starting to see the fruits of those things going right, including some drastically improved views of different parts of the sky. You a quick summary of this little update for us?
Yeah, so I mean, to your point, like everything did have to go right here, which it feels like it happens so rarely with space exploration. We get most things right, but even the slightest deviation can result in something exploding or something crashing or something just not working. Hubble, famously had to have the mirrors fixed after it was up in the air. So there's this, like, every piece going perfectly and then getting these images is absolutely stunning. One of the things that is kind of fascinating about it is sort of these pointed stars around the edges here, and this is actually because of the struts that are holding the mirrors in place. So this is not actually a natural phenomenon. This is how the image is processed, because that's how the image is being reflected using these reflectors. But just looking at the quality difference, like, it's like getting LASIK. It's incredibly fascinating. We're also able to look further back in time. The further out you're able to look, the longer it takes light to get here. So it's you're basically, you've got a time machine looking back into the history of the universe. So this is one of those amazing science projects for that's going to have just drastic implications in how we see the universe. So it's really great to see that it's up and running and it's working perfectly.
I think there's going to be a bit of a competition to all the various projects wanting to get Webb to point at the part of space that various parties want to focus on. So
just look
space,
over there.
Yeah, space is big, so get in line, folks. But definitely exciting that things are going relatively well, all things considered, and we're starting to see the fruits of those developments. A couple of things that haven't gone so well in some new space news. We had a Rocket Lab helicopter that was trying to catch a falling rocket to avoid it, the booster section, to avoid it from landing in the water. Because when you can avoid things landing in the water, it's a lot easier to refurbish them for future launches. And we've seen SpaceX refining its technique for landing its rockets for reuse. So apparently the Electron rocket took off, and when it came back down, the idea was to have it parachute down, and a helicopter was to grab it while it was in there, and it did. Awesome, but then it dropped it. So that's one little thing, one little setback there. And then in another little setback on Mars, the Mars rover has lost contact with the Mars helicopter, which has been tootling around for the last few months over the surface of Mars. It's covered several kilometers now and doing quite well. But apparently some dust has been accumulating on the solar panels, and it's causing some problems here. So, Gray, these two stories, I mean, they're not directly related with one another, but they do speak to the fact that there are so many factors that are involved with any space launch, whether it's just local or not even outside of our atmosphere yet, or all the way across our solar system to Mars. Do you think that we're going to get Ingenuity up and running again here? We got, because if the solar panels are dusty, then the batteries don't charge properly, et cetera, et cetera. Are you pessimistic or optimistic about the Mars thing? Because they've basically had to put the whole project on hold until they get things sorted out.
I'm optimistic. We had one rover. I think it was Spirit.
There's Spirit and Curiosity, yeah.
Yeah, it was one of the two. But it basically kept going because the wind kept sweeping the dust off the solar panels. So I'm really hopeful that we'll see that happen. This is a fascinating piece of technology. Being able to fly in that thin Martian atmosphere is, it's a miracle of physics, really. To use a complete oxymoron there, but just really, really impressive. So I'm hoping that we're not stunted by dust here, but that's actually something that is not just a challenge on Mars, but even more so on the moon. The regolith on the moon is just so fine and gets into everything that Mars actually seems like a bit more of a hospitable place to put down, because it's a little bit less corrosive or caustic, I guess. Looking at the helicopter grabbing that booster, it reminds me of the Fulton surface to air recovery system. Did you ever see this? It's basically you're on the ground and you have a quick inflation balloon that kind of takes you up in the air and it grabs you with a hook. And it's for evac of people. I don't know if it was ever used successfully without breaking somebody's neck, but it kind of reminds me of that. As you're coming by and you're snagging this thing out of the air, but you've got to think, you've got a helicopter, this thing, wind shear, all of those forces. It's no wonder they had a load abnormality. There's a lot going on there. I'm wondering if there maybe is it's something that you could do with servos and microprocessors that might be able to react more quickly to that. But the pilot's got a whole lot on their mind there. And I think as soon as that becomes a dodgy proposition, it's probably best to let that thing go. I hope they get it working.
Me too. So with moving from the surface of Mars back to Earth, this is something we didn't get a chance to talk about last week, but Snap, formerly known as Snapchat, announced a mini drone called Pixie. And you have to see it to believe this thing is tiny. It fits in the palm of your hand. It looks like the size of a large piece of toast, basically. They're looking to sell it for $230 US. And the idea here is really opening up the vistas for drone usage. You keep it flying low. Of course, we have so many restrictions regarding airspace and whatnot. But the idea here is this is really for not so much the enthusiasts and the YouTubers who are spending $800, $1,000, $2,000 for various flavors of DJI Mavic drones, but something for a couple $100 that you could just have a bit of fun with. And the quality is reflected in that. Jamie, I know you haven't really been in the drone space, but you do enjoy some technology now and then, but you are pretty clear about trying to rationalize a place for any new tech in your life. Given the price point of this and the accessibility of a gadget like this, what is your interest level?
Zero.
Playing the role of William Silver this week.
Well, no. Again, this is not for me. This is for. I can see this from a corporate marketing standpoint. There's a lot of people who take a lot of selfies in the world, and if there's people that use selfie sticks that don't want to use a selfie stick anymore, they're like, oh, if I can have something that actually flies in front of me, it takes a picture or a video, as it shows here, that's going to be so much better. Basically, it's something that they made in order to sell. It's not. It's really it's a device looking for a problem to solve in order to make money, which is what everything is really. Yep. But so again, it's not really something for me. I don't think it's that important for me, but the culture within which we live and social media and taking selfies and that kind of thing, that's what it's built for. And so it's probably a wise move. Even if it's just a proof of concept sort of thing to be able to sell to people. And then the next generation comes out, it's even better, and so on and so on and so on. So yeah, not for me, but hey, I appreciate what they're trying to do.
A few years ago, Snap repositioned itself, actually renamed itself from Snapchat to Snap, but then also repositioned itself as a quote unquote camera company. So not merely a sharing platform and a messaging platform and the like. So we've had a couple of generations of Snap spectacles with photo and video cameras built into the frames themselves. And more recently, we've seen offerings from Ray-Ban and Facebook with the Ray-Ban Stories as well. So, great. Look, you've been deeply enmeshed in the social world and the digital marketing world for quite a while. What sort of options do you see this opening up for small businesses, perhaps, to add some production value to their content strategy and their sharing that it was possibly out of reach, either having to hire someone in the past with a fancy drone or having to spend several $100s here? Do you see something other than for the personal kind of Snapchat user or vlogger here? What do you see from like maybe a small to medium sized business angle in terms of accessibility for this kind of tech?
Yeah, I mean the types of literally the types of angles that you can get with this, just you can't do with anything other than a drone. Like gimbals and jibs and things like that. Just they're a lot of work, and even traditional drones are a lot of work. We shot a video last year of the Ember Arts Fire Troop, which was the video submitted to Burning Man for Conclave for the celebration at the end of the week, and
that's when they elected a new pope, right?
White smoke. But the video was phenomenal. Like that drone footage is it's unlike anything else that you can get. But we had Robin there, and I can't remember the other fellow's name, and they were flying these drones and doing a hell of a job. But there was a lot of thinking going into it. So you can imagine, like, if you see a lot of small businesses now on YouTube where they're taking the content strategy approach of like, here, let me tell you more about what it is that I do, so that you know that it's actually a good idea to hire me, because you hear what it is that I do and know that you're never going to be able to do it yourself. And that's one of the things that I've encountered quite a bit. So this thing right here could take you to, you can imagine, if you're a roofer, you're probably not lugging a camera crew up there with you. If you're maybe working in arboreal science or something like that, there's plenty of places where this actually could.
Landscaper.
Yeah.
Real estate agent that doesn't want to is a little tight on budget and doesn't want to hire folks anymore to do you're seeing a lot more drone footage in fancy real estate listings. Well, you can bring that down to your more accessible real estate listings as well.
Yeah, and I mean, really, this is the democratization of technology that we've gone the entire way along, right? If you think back to the early mid 2000s, a 720p camera was $10,000, and now we carry a 4K 60 frame per second camera in our pocket. So it's no surprise that this is here. I like the pre-programmed flight paths, right? Just take the thinking out of it. Don't have to worry about doing the thing. Just do what you want to do and let the thing do the work. So yeah, it's neat.
Yeah. And this particular model, it's called the Pixie, Pixy, captures 2.7K videos. So it's better than HD, but not quite 4K. 12 megapixel photos. It's only 101 grams. So being under that 250 gram limit is not subject to quite the same level of regulation as a lot of other drones are, which is handy. Now, Jamie, being the kitchen designer you are, I see some little drone fly-throughs in your future for this price.
Yeah,
into the cupboards,
yeah, I don't really know. I use the software I use now. I do walkthroughs with kitchens for the software, but it's kind of tight quarters there. But I've considered it. You got to consider all technologies for doing different things. But yeah, maybe not quite there.
We'll get there.
Maybe not quite important yet. Yeah.
In other drone-related news, this was from a couple of weeks ago, but I was hanging on to it because every once in a while, despite the reams of bad news around us, it's nice to have a little bit of good news. And drones apparently have transformed blood delivery in Rwanda. So these autonomous aircraft have shuttled blood to rural mountainous areas for years, and a new analysis proves they're faster than drying. So these aren't our typical consumer quadcopter drones. These are more fixed wing type drones, but they can drop some packages off with some little parachutes on them and delivering things like blood and other medical supplies. We're starting to see these sorts of applications more and more. So drones aren't just for our vanity videos or our social media influencers and or even our realtors nowadays. There's also, or even the mythical Amazon Prime Air that went to testing and never really materialized for a number of reasons. But there are all sorts of other and drones aren't just for bombing either, which is nice to know. You can bomb people with blood. Gray?
Yep. You can bomb people with blood.
There was an article I was reading, so on a similar line, which has been going on for a while, is the tree planting with drones as well. So it's a similar sort of idea. But yeah, they take these drones can be programmed to come and pick up a bunch of seedlings and saplings and then and shoot them into the ground at pre-programmed spacings. So similar kind of idea. There is definitely a lot of benefits to having some autonomous flying vehicles out there doing this type of thing, as long as they don't fill up the skies too much and then start hitting each other. But again, hopefully there's ways of doing that. But yeah, that's pretty great that they can do that kind of thing. Now that the way that they catch the drones with the little thing there, that's a little weird.
It reminds me of aircraft carrier decks, except
it does
in the air instead of on the deck.
Yeah, it seems like they could maybe make them just like land, but I guess that's the way to do it.
Maybe it's easier on the body that way.
It could be, it could be. So, anyways, so that similar idea to planting trees with drones too.
Yeah. So we just have to workshop a few ideas of our own, and I mean, it's not long until we get assassination by drone too.
I think that's already happened.
I mean, like autonomously with the facial recognition and the profiling.
I like the way your brain thinks there, Tristan.
Stopkillerrobots.org. Check it out. There's scientists are concerned.
Birds aren't real.
In other death-related news, Apple, after 20 years, over 20 years actually, has finally killed the last remaining iPod. Believe it or not, there was still an iPod being sold, the iPod Touch, which was last updated in 2017, and Apple has still been selling it in, I'm sure, very limited quantities. Basically, it's an iPhone without the phone part and using, I think, an A10 processor, but great entry-level device for kids. Of course, no SIM card, so it could only be used on Wi-Fi or totally disconnected itself. iPad, I think, inarguably, the iPod sort of helped shift things in the music industry considerably with along with the iTunes store. The music industry was being challenged by Napster and other peer-to-peer file sharing services in the late 90s. And Steve Jobs, in his usual way, came to the record labels who were at a point of weakness and offered them a deal they couldn't refuse. So from that, we got the iTunes store, the 99-cent downloadable singles, the $9.99 songs, which later got a bit more variable pricing. There was DRM initially to appease the record labels, and then eventually the DRM went away. And then as time went on, we saw more and more streaming thanks to Spotify, which really paved the way there. I mean, standing on the shoulders of the likes of Pandora and others. But Spotify was really the one that brought streaming to the mainstream. And then you saw others like Apple playing catch up with their acquisition of Beats. So the iPod was just kind of, it was a dead man walking for quite a while, because as we've talked about in the past, convergence has been such a trend, as all these devices have converged into our smartphones, our cameras, our music players, our game devices, our internet devices, and so on. So, no longer did we have like this, my Gen 2 iPod got stolen in my car in Gastown a number of years ago. So this is a Gen 4 iPod Photo, I believe. Then they had the iPod Mini, which was only out for a year or two, and they nerfed it and replaced it with the iPod Nano, which really blew things up. The Nano took all sorts of different shapes and sizes. There's the Fat Nano, which is not one of the more successful designs. You could watch great video on there. And then some other interesting experiments. Again, they came in a few different sizes and shapes, like the iPod Shuffle, which had very little in the way of interface at all, but it plugged right in via USB, and you could load your few dozen songs on there and just put it on shuffle. Later versions were controlled by voice. So my question for you two is, what single purpose gadget is or was your favorite over the years? Because again, we've had convergence for so long as a trend, but are there still some things you like to do on a device that does mostly just one thing? Or if not, what one device from the past may have been your favorite for doing just one thing on? And I'll start with you, Jamie.
Oh, thank you.
I can go first if you prefer.
No, I'm good. I was racking my brain as you were going through that, and I'm trying to think of a single purpose gadget. And interestingly, sort of to go backwards technology wise, it's probably my current DSLR. I actually really like using a camera with a proper lens and changing the lenses out to get the right picture. There's something about a proper camera to take a picture that just a phone just cannot duplicate. The computerized depth of field, it kind of works, and this, that, the other thing. But I was looking back on some pictures, and I rarely use it anymore. I'd let my son borrow it while he was at university. He's back now from there, so I do have it again. So I'm gonna actually pull it out and start using it a bit more. But yeah, there is something really satisfying about having something that is not general purpose, something that is really focused on a certain task, because oftentimes those unique tasks are so much better served when you have something that is designed for that particular task. A good example, going back to the phones or an Apple thing, I remember when Apple, I think maybe it was iPod Touch came out, or one of the iPhones came out, and it had a level in the phone that had the level on the screen, and you could put the phone down and give a level. Well, you know what? It worked, but it
Yep.
was not something that I would use on a job site.
For sure.
So I would use it
Casual use only.
Exactly. Excuse me. But again, a good example there of the phone.
Yeah.
Again, the convergence. Oh, yeah, it's got this accelerometer thing or whatever it was that you could do to check your level, and it would work. But it really, if you want to use one, if you want to have a proper thing, you use an actual level still. Same kind of idea. So yeah, I would say the DSLR was really and still is a thing that I like to go to get something just right, the way I really want to, and feel really satisfied with it, stepping back from the convergence type of thing.
And then you're not getting notifications on your DSLR to interrupt you in the flow of work either, right?
It's true. Yeah. It's kind of an important thing. You're focused on the one task.
And there's something to be said for physics, right? And having all that glass and all that size and those larger sensors, as much as smartphones are doing a better and better job with computational photography to approximate the look of certain types of DSLRs. But yeah, it's really hard to compete. Even with lower megapixel rated DSLRs, you can get sometimes better looking shots.
Oh yeah,
just from the nature of the glass. Yeah,
I would call megapixels a red herring for most things these days. When people are buying things, I heard that Samsung's coming out with some like 200 megapixel thing on their phone coming up. It's just like
it's the speeds and feeds thing, so people can try and sell it, right?
It's just ratings and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't really. It's not going to help your photography, but anyways. So that's I completely agree.
Gray, how about you? What sort of a single purpose device has been a favorite of yours over the years, or even more recently?
The Game Boy Advance SP.
Oh,
it was just the perfect little gaming machine. Folded up, protected the screen, had a rechargeable lithium-ion battery that lasted for a very, very long time. I think I went a couple of years without powering it on, and turned it on, and it still had power. It's just a massive collection of classic games. Played original Game Boy games as well. It was like as a single tasking device, that thing is still probably one of the most impressive in my mind, and I've still got one.
So what did the SP stand for?
It's a great question.
Or what made it different from other Game Boys? Was it one of the horizontally
so the Game Boy Advance first came out was sort of laid out horizontally, and it did not have a backlit screen. So it relied on ambient light to illuminate the screen, which made it very difficult to play on. The Game Boy Advance SP added back illumination to the LCD, Beautiful. So you could actually see the game at night or even in bright daylight. So it's
But Jamie wants to know if it has a crank.
It does not have the crank. My Playdate ships today, actually.
Really? So, oh, we're gonna get a live review. Hopefully, on an upcoming episode. That's exciting. You're gonna have to. Jamie's gonna need some work to be convinced on that one, but the reviews have been intriguing.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck.
As for myself, I would say like back in the day, the iPod for me was actually a big deal. Being a big music fan and having so many records and CDs all the way back into early high school, and having Walkman, having a Discman, and seeing other early MP3 players come around. A friend of ours, Tavis, had a Diamond Rio, I believe, that he showed off to us. I think it had 64 megabytes of storage originally, so that was kind of cool. But it was just couldn't fit a whole lot on that, or unless you really wanted to compress the heck out of those. But when the iPod first came on, and they did a deal with Toshiba too, because Toshiba was doing these, I think, 1.8-inch drives, these micro drives, and you could fit 1,000 songs on there at a decent bit rate. I didn't get the first generation. I got the second generation one, which was had a little bit better capacity, but I was in heaven for years and years, having lots and lots of music with me on there at any given time. More recently, and this is a function of that music listening move over to the smartphone, and particularly my iPhones over the years. I think my favorite single-purpose device it's an oldie as well, probably almost as old as the iPod, is the old PSP original, the 1001 that my buddy Chris gave me years ago. And there's like only one or two games I play on it, but it's one of those things. Like you alluded to, Gray and Jamie. It's just like it's your one thing you're focused on. There's nothing else going on. You're not getting people messaging you on it, and it's purpose built. So like smartphone gaming is huge, and I get it for casual games, but like there are people who do like kind of like there's like first person shooters and all sorts of stuff on smartphones. And I can't imagine using the touchscreen controls for that, but I get, the youngs seem to have figured it out. But for me, my money is on having the actual physical buttons on there, the D-pads and the like. So that's show and tell for today. So let's pour one out for the iPod Touch again, which was a multi-purpose device, to be fair, but was the last in carrying the name of the storied iPod brand. Definitely a game changer in the world of personal electronics. Next up is a story that I'm sure is near and dear to Gray's heart, and there has been all sorts of schadenfreude about this. Despite its name, Terra, their stablecoin, the value has plummeted in the last few days. And Gray's going to explain for us why. But one of the things that I wanted to kind of one of the angles for this story in my mind is that there's something called, that I heard referred to as the big short effect. There's this phenomenon you see online where people almost revel in some kind of failure or perceived failure of something and a lot of times it's people who kind of maybe missed out on an opportunity. Maybe they're sour grapes, but then when that opportunity kind of blows up in some way, even if it's only temporary, like, it justified my not getting involved in that. So there's all sorts. It's hard to find any positive stories on this because, it is a bit of a fustercluck at this point because Gray will explain to us what a stable coin is and what has happened with Terra over the last few days. And in the larger context of there's also tech stocks have been taking a beating. Crypto in general has tracked the NASDAQ tech stocks pretty closely. So Bitcoin's, off 50% from its all-time highs. ETH and similarly, and a lot of the smaller ones are in the red as well. And Terra has been doing some interesting things over the last year or two. And Gray, you've been following it pretty closely. So would you mind just explain for us quickly what a stable coin is and how they're normally backed versus what Terra was doing, and why did things kind of blow up over the weekend?
Sure. Stablecoin is a coin that is supposed to be pegged to a given currency. Usually it's the US dollar. So there's USDC, USD Circle, USDT, which is Tether, and then there's UST, which is US Terra. The first two are backed by commodities. So, in most cases, actual US dollars. Terra is an algorithmically backed stablecoin. It has a partner cryptocurrency called Luna that when you want to mint UST, you burn Luna. When you want to mint Luna, you burn UST. Essentially what's happened, the Terraform Labs has basically been backing Luna and UST with Bitcoin over the course of the last 8 to 12 weeks. It's interesting, like what happened the last week or so was a malicious attack.
Oh, okay.
So we've actually seen the wallets now where essentially they were offered UST at a discount in exchange for Bitcoin, and then essentially shorted both. This was a small group of extremely rich people taking retail investors, and I know of at least one suicide that's happened in the last 48 hours. To the people who take joy in this kind of thing, I don't really know that there's a place on this planet for you. Like that's the cruelty that goes on the internet is horrible. And within the cryptocurrency community, it's doubly so. They seem to have doubled down on the, Pepe the Frog sort of identity. But watching people fail and wanting people to fail is unconscionable. The interesting thing, Terraform Labs Do Kwon has said that they've got a recovery plan in place. This did expose a weakness in the system, but this was a concerted effort with hundreds of billions of dollars involved. This was, if this was two nations, that would have been a declaration of war. So it's interesting to see this happen. Like algorithmic stablecoins, I think, are still, in my opinion, far more egalitarian than anything that's backed by a currency that a government controls. So I still think that this is the right way to go. In the next 2 or 3 days, we'll see whether or not Terraform Labs has a plan that can actually get us back to a point where the peg is reestablished. It's at 94 cents right now, which is not good. It was down to on Binance, I think somewhere around 60 cents at one point.
Yeah, when I checked earlier today, it was 81 cents, I believe.
So we're at 94 currently, but that's just more of a reason not to use Binance, I think. So anyway, the peg looks like it is going to be reestablished. People are saying that consumer trust in Luna is dropping, but like for it to reestablish its peg this quickly, when we saw this happen to Dai and a few others, it was months. So, needless to say, I'm very sad to see something like this happen. Markets are going to market, but
now, do you think it speaks to a possible flaw in the logic of backing a stable coin with an other volatile asset as Bitcoin?
No, that actually saved it.
Sorry?
That actually saved it.
Okay.
Right, because the algorithm, like the one thing that can end an algorithmic stablecoin is a run on the bank, and you basically exceed the availability of liquidity. By having that reserve, they were able to put it into place very, very quickly. But that was actually used to victimize the whole thing by shorting both Bitcoin and Luna at the same time and causing a drop in both. This entity essentially made a lot of money liquidating a lot of people. This was some James Bond shit. So no, it was that like without that reserve, having the reserve in such a place where it could be manipulated. The only thing I can say at this point is I think there needs to be some look at the code and making sure that doesn't happen again in the future. And I think that's probably what we're going to hear from Doe in the next couple of days.
So with USDC, for example, they claim to be backed 100% by US dollars. USDT, there's been some question. That's Tether. There was some investigation last fall about it, and apparently there's a lot of loans involved that are backing USDT and other instruments.
Like
not
shell
nearly.
game.
Yeah. So, I mean, I took any money that I had in USDT, which is, I mean, stable coins are great for being able to get in and out of different crypto assets. It's basically, US peg dollar or a dollar equivalent. But would this have happened though to something like USDC? Because it's pretty hard to short the US dollar, and if they are 100% backed by US,
it's lost 8% of its value in the last year.
Right, but not in the weekend, right? This is what I'm saying. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point that you said that they're going to be looking at the code. It comes to the question of, is this, how decentralized can these things be? If
yeah,
I mean, that's supposed to be one of the points of crypto is decentralization, and I think we're finding that some controls, like we had when we had the DAO hack with the Ethereum network a number of years ago. A lot of people were critical of that, and that's how we ended up with Ethereum Classic, because the Ethereum Foundation said, actually, we're going to roll this back and restore people, make them whole again. But that was very centralized. So do you think that the future of crypto is like not fully decentralized, but it has to be a blend maybe?
No, I don't. Okay. I think we just need better code. And unfortunately, early adopters are going to bleed. Right. I mean, a lot of the folks
back to the blood theme.
Yeah, a lot of the folks that got liquidated, unfortunately, were participating in what are called DGen tactics, which they are taking loans out on loans, and when basically your collateral is reduced in value, your loan gets called, it gets liquidated, you lose everything. That's never something that's appealed to me, but for a lot of folks out there, that's their crypto strategy. And it's it'd have to come off the peg by 40 cents. It'd never happen. That's just too much risk for my blood. But this is the thing, to the victor go the spoils, risk reward. I wasn't interested in that, but other people are. Until such time as like it's been tested like this and nothing has happened, that's when I would possibly participate in something like that. But a lot of people got wrecked in the last couple of days. But I can't say that the vast majority of them didn't know what they were getting into. Like in order to be able to participate in these things, you need to understand them to a degree and
never invest more than you're willing to lose on these sorts of high risk, high reward potential type things. Jamie, whether it's crypto or we're going to transition into a couple of NFT related stories in a moment, what is your risk tolerance here? What is, how much of a sandbox are you playing with when it comes to some of these exotic instruments, modern instruments?
No, I'm pretty high level. I don't delve down too much into the complexities. I think I'm too old to figure it all out. So I have some crypto, but I just buy it
Keep it
and
simple.
lock it away.
Yeah.
Keep it and lock it away. I'm not. I just think it's an interesting proof of concept stuff. But I think it's such nascent technology still. It hasn't been stress tested, although not perfect by a long shot. It hasn't been stress tested like fiat currency has, in essence. So fiat currency has been around so long, and it's gone through ups and downs, lefts and rights, and it's still changing too. But there is at least a perceived sense of stability there, whereas this stuff is still, you got to improve the code. Well, that, to the average person, that's going to mean, what is that? What does that even mean? Improve the code? I just want to
It's
have
like
something
installing
that
a vault at your bank after it gets robbed.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
but that's the thing. If people are like, okay, well, this seems too complex for me, I'm gonna step away from it. So anyways, for me, it's like, yeah, I'm disinterested in playing in the complexities of it all, because I just don't understand it. I prefer to understand it, and I barely understand the high level stuff of crypto.
So the Warren Buffett approach.
Do you guys understand like the nuances of GICs and TFSAs and what you're supposed to be claiming and the intricacies of tax code? Because I don't, but I still have to.
More than crypto, I do more than crypto. Absolutely.
Yeah. I guess maybe it might be an age thing, but I'm the other way around. I look at that stuff. I'm just like, none of this makes any sense. Like, I'm giving you a lot of money, and you're giving me a very little bit of money in return.
But the inverse approach stands as well? Like, do you understand all the code of crypto to say, oh, well, I should be able to invest in that because the code is solid? I think the same logic applies.
I know how to read Rust. I know how to read a white paper. So yeah, kind of.
What about Solidity?
Okay, well, fair enough. So what you're saying is you have a better handle on how the crypto works. Okay, fair enough.
For the record, I'm putting most of my fiat in Venezuela and Zimbabwe because I've heard they've got a good track record.
They're great with voting machines.
So moving from one crypto story to another, there's a few NFT developments that we'll just go through quickly here. Gray, we missed you for a couple of weeks, but I have been hanging on to this one. One headline: NFTs are here to ruin Dungeons and Dragons. So one organization called Gripner wants to put Dungeons and Dragons on the blockchain. Players say real money will ruin the fun.
Yeah.
Quick, what's your hot take?
This is horrible. Yeah, D&D doesn't need this. It doesn't need blockchain. It doesn't need, like, you want to reward your artists, but artists get, I think the artists in D&D get fairly well rewarded anyway. When you take a look at how easy it is to publish your own modules, there's a huge community around it. I think Jamie said it earlier. This is a solution in search of a problem.
Gripner plans to generate 10,000 random D&D player characters, assign a rarity to certain aspects of each, such as ancestry and class, and mint them as NFTs. Each will include character sets and randomly generated portrait of the player character, designed in a process overseen by Gripner's lead artist, Justin Kammerer. And additional NFTs will be minted to represent weapons and equipment. But Gray, if I recall, you're way ahead of this. Your Twitter profile also has your character attributes baked in, doesn't it?
It does, and that's a gag. This makes me gag. To quote Tasia, gross. This is terrible. Like, D&D is about individual creativity. It's not about randomly generated, character art and leaving it all up. Like, it's supposed to be about a representation of how you've created this character. Letting a computer do it doesn't seem in the spirit of it. Maybe some people like it, but I'm with whoever wrote the story here. This is not ruining D&D. It's just a really horrible application of NFTs.
All right, then. Our next NFT story is Zuck, as in Mark Zuckerberg, wants to build AR or augmented reality NFTs for Instagram because maybe he's bored. So they'll be supporting Ethereum and Polygon-based NFTs. Jamie, is this what it's going to take to get you into the NFT game now that you can do them on Instagram? Because I see you on Instagram, and I know that you're AR curious because you've been early into VR and metaverse activities for the last decade or so. What are your thoughts? Do you think NFTs have a place on Instagram?
This might do it for me, actually. No. This is all bandwagon jumping and everybody trying to find an angle to make a buck. Again, which is how the world works. These are not passion projects. These are, okay, NFTs are a thing now. how can we apply this in order to create value, and which is at the core of capitalism, which again I have a lot of respect for, but it also creates problems where artificial value sometimes it doesn't benefit those participating in the marketplace. So again, for me, these are NFTs seem to be mostly for people who want to make a quick buck, or they want to try and buy something because they think it's going to be really, really valuable. But there's no real use case to most of these things. Again, I still think when somebody comes up with, and maybe they are, or maybe they have NFT Ticketmaster situation where you can get a ticket and it's yours, and there's no way that it could be copied or transferred or whatever, that kind of thing, or in virtual goods. Again, those are great ideas, but it seems to be that things are reaching far further afield than they should. So again, I feel out of the loop on this, so I don't really know what the point is. It's just, if you can buy a piece of art and and it's yours, it's digital, fine. But if you can get an exact replica of it, and it's not yours, but you still can look at it and put it where you want to. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. The way it's being positioned as a way for creators to connect with their audience, and for their audience to be able to, show their loyalty to creators by being able to purchase a digital good, and with a platform as large as Instagram and as visually driven as Instagram, I think they're figuring it's a natural fit there. And, of course, money talks, right? But there are a lot of people spending a lot of time creating for their audiences, and it can be tricky to monetize. Like on YouTube, it's easy, just turn on AdSense, and then eventually, you can maybe develop merch and have other ways. So, but on Instagram, there is no primary way to monetize. You have to go straight to the merch or be pitching another business. Gray, being that you associate with a number of people in various creative communities there, do you think this is a positive step, or are you still Zuck skeptical?
Yeah. Like 11-foot barge pole.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't touch it with the 10-foot barge pole.
I gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, how about instead we brew NFTs for water? Abalon, which is a brewery in the Ukraine, they've been working hard to bottle water for people in the Ukraine who have been suffering from a little invasion for the last couple of months. Well, they are minting NFTs where people can buy and then eventually collect as time goes on. But this is a bit of a fundraiser to help support their efforts, because they've been doing a lot of this out of their own pockets, and it can only go for so long. So this is an example of a different way that NFTs can be used there. Now, Jamie, I know you're a fan of brewing in general. I'm not sure if you've tried Abalon per se, their brews or their water. Do you think this sort of aspect has potential for fundraising?
Again, I don't get it. I just don't get it. I'm sorry. I'm not seeing what, like, if I want to donate money somewhere, can I just donate money? Like, I'm not sure what they're trying to achieve.
Don't you want stuff for your money, like a little digital collectible? I mean, it's
but do I? I guess that's the thing here. What are they? Like, can I not donate something and then they can just send me a coaster for their beer, or send
NFTs don't require postage, just gas fees.
But again, I think there's something to be said about the physical. To get something digital, which is easily copyable, although you have the rights to the original, there is a gap there. You can't just equate the two. So getting a physical keychain. So a prime example, Tristan, your wife and my wife, they both do the Conqueror's Challenge,
yes.
Which is a virtual walk around different pathways, different roadways around the world, and you can do different challenges. You walk it, and then that's virtual. But at the end of it, if you complete it with your team or you're by yourself, and you pay them the money to be part of the challenge, they send you a physical medal. And it's very well done and extremely cool. Every path has its own little medal at the end of the game, at the end of your race. And there's something tangible about that. And even though it's not unique, these are mass produced and whatever, and they're sent out to everybody. But there's something nice about being able to actually do the little thing or flip it around and look at and feel the heft of it. And that's not the same as getting a picture of the medal and saying, oh, look, you got your medal, and this is your copy of this particular thing. It's a totally different animal. So I think that you'll find that getting something physical, a cheap little thing or an expensive thing, is actually going to be much more satisfying for most people. But there's going to be people, I guess, who want the virtual good, and they'll value that the same amount. I just don't think there's enough people that are going to do that.
Well, and again, this could be a generation gap sort of thing. We've mentioned in the past how
I'm old.
maybe
Yeah.
the youngs, the real estate being at such a premium nowadays, they don't have the giant homes to fill with crap. So maybe they would rather collect digital crap instead. Also, I'm not sure how long it's going to be before Ukraine's postal system is up and running again properly. So, Gray, we know you've got to run soon. We were going to talk about some video game stuff. And if you've got to bail before then, we totally understand. But before you do go, do you want to share with us your pick of the week?
Yeah. So this is the Flipper Zero, and it is a cool little Kickstarter toy.
Flipper Zero.
Yeah, flipper0.1 is the web address. And so it is actually a really cool little hacking tool. It will receive all sorts of IC card transmissions, RFIDs, you can receive and transmit infrared. And you can also program it to basically, send pulses of different radio frequencies. It's just a really cool little device. And it also has Flipper as a character inside here. And as you...
As in the dolphin. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. As well as Luona, the cyber dolphin.
Okay.
But essentially, like, as you use it more, it will level up, and it has a bit of a personality. It's kind of a fun way of interacting with the different types of tools that are in here and learning about how to look at radio signals and that sort of thing. So
is this kind of like a sort of like a Raspberry Pi cross with a Tamagotchi?
Yeah, but also like a hacking tool.
Yeah, the kind of thing you get at Radio Shack in the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah, so it comes with a little sticker. Speaking of that, that says "Hack the Planet." So,
wow. Well, I would look forward to hearing about the kind of trouble that you get up to with that. It does remind me of the kind of quasi-hacker ethic that was nurtured by places like Radio Shack in the 70s and 80s, where they had so many supplies that you could go and kits you could buy to build your own things. And that's something we've kind of lost in the prepackaged world of gadgets nowadays. Things are a lot less hackable unless you really get into it. So that's interesting. I look forward to hearing more about that. Now, what inspired you to get this? I see here that people are doing like NFC type stuff with it. What was your motivation for getting on board with this project?
To be honest, like I've always had card readers and things, and just being able to like program your own fobs is kind of a neat idea. Being able to, it's got an IR Blaster TV off as well. So, if you're
you could work for Gizmodo.
Yeah, it's,
that's an old reference. Sorry.
But yeah, I don't know. It seemed like the type of tool that I wanted to have in my everyday carry kit back when I used to have an everyday carry kit. So it's been that long since the Kickstarter.
All right, Jamie, let's, we'll save our video game talk for next time. Jamie, what's your pick of the week?
An umbrella. So this is a patio umbrella that I have recently put on my deck, and it is a multi-dimensional umbrella. So you can set it up, and if you go onto the 3D or some of the things in there, there's some neat explanations about how it works. But this thing can tip backwards and forwards and left and right and pivot, so you can have it vertical. And there's some neat cantilever technology. If you scroll down a bit go to the left side there, Tristan, and go down a bit there, you can see the right at the top of your list there. There's a little down one. There, so you can tip it on its side. So if the sun is low in the sky, you can tip it to the side, and it'll block the sun very easily. And it also has neat LED strips all the way through those. Those are LED lights. So that is solar powered on the cap. So during the day it'll charge up, and then during the night you just press a little button and you get a nice warm light without having to put any power to your deck. It's quite a neat cantilevered system, and it's very easy to put together, and it was very reasonably priced. So yeah, those are that's a pretty cool low tech, high tech hybrid there.
And so it's got a weight at the bottom too, so it's not going to tip over.
Yeah, the unit
Yeah.
itself comes with 4 separate blocks that
Mhm.
are empty containers that you fill with sand and water, and then you put each one on separately to create one bigger block at that point. And yeah, the overall unit is quite light, and that prevents it from tipping over.
Good. And how did you decide on this particular one? What kind
The-
of research you did? What was your sources for researching cantilever
our,
umbrellas?
our source for this one was actually a mutual friend of ours. For our friends Joanne and Paul have one of these
Right.
on their deck, and we liked it and compared it to other ones and said, yeah, this is the one to go.
All right. Good choice. Gray's got to run, so we'll let you go. Gray, thanks for joining us, and I'll bore Jamie with my pick of the week, and then we'll wrap it up.
Sounds good. But yeah, so this is a great. I surprisingly enjoy adjusting it, and you can spin it around 360 degrees too. So it's 11 foot in diameter, and so it really covers a huge area depending on the use that you need it for.
We've been in the market for one for a while, so don't tell my
Mm-hmm.
wife. All right. So my pick of the week is something a little different and kind of stupid, but I ran across it. This is not something new, but apparently there's this quasi game type thing, more vehicular simulation called BeamNG. And I ran across this series of YouTube videos. There's all sorts of channels that feature footage from this game. There's an amazing number of vehicles and parts of the vehicles and the physics dynamics and whatnot. And people have this habit of trying to pit vehicles against strange features in the in the landscape, such as giant bulges in the road, giant pits in the road. And how does a truck fare versus a sports car versus an SUV and whatnot? And it sounds dumb, but it's oddly satisfying to watch and oddly addictive. And you scroll through. There's somewhere you can chain cars together and see how they fare when they hit a bollard. There's if you're interested in physics at all, like, this isn't going to be 100% accurate simulation of reality, but they're within the rules of the universe as they've designed it to date. It is pretty interesting, and it shares a lot of features with engines that are being used in other video game platforms nowadays. So I just thought this was wild. Like, for example, this Cars versus 100 Fallen Trees. I think it's a little goofy because the logs don't actually move when they're hit. So they didn't specify there that that they were fixed. So there's a few limitations, and maybe some of that stuff can be programmed into the simulations. But it's just kind of fun to see how these various vehicles handle
this reminds me of a game, and I can't remember if it was an old PC game. It must have been. It was like racing destruction set, or and you could actually put your vehicles on different planets. You could be like on Io or on Jupiter, and then you could create this racetrack. And but that's got to be like 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, similar kind of idea.
It seems to scratch a similar itch. People just like seeing stuff get wrecked. And part of it is, the being able to play in a world where there are no real consequences, right? You just get to see what if, you had a train and have to go along a track and there's a giant pit. And what if that got rear-ended by another engine car? Just like, so cars, trains, all sorts of stuff. It's like I said, it's oddly addicting.
I would assume that it's mostly, not all, but mostly men playing this game. There's something about
you think?
It's so stupid, but there is something appealing about it. I would agree.
Yeah. So you can go to beamng.com and you can access the game on the Steam store and download it there for your device and mess around with this stuff yourself. And man, if I was a 12-year-old, I would be so into this and waste so much time. But alas, now I'm just have to resort to YouTube videos to watch other people who have spent an order of magnitude more hours on this.
Yeah, that's the problem with stuff like that. So.
So with that in mind, we have just one last thing to share, and that is our video from our lovely and talented Tasia Custodi. She has another YouTube video for us, as she does every week. This one is Google Maps updates for 2022. And I actually learned some stuff on this. So if you're a Google Maps user, check out what Tasia has to share in this video, which you can find at youtube.com/Tasia Custodi. Jamie, got any projects this week? Any interesting designs you're working on, or anything else aside from umbrellas?
There's always interesting stuff, but what I should do is probably do a cool tech in kitchens segment one of these days. So I'll put my thinky brain cap on and come up with something there. But there are some cool kitchen things that we could maybe talk about at some point.
I would really look forward to that, actually.
Yeah, you bet.
Mix it up. All right. So thank you, Jamie, for joining us this week on Momentous Live. You can learn more about Momentous at momentous.tv, twitter.com/momentous.tv, instagram.com/momentous.tv, facebook.com/momentous.tv. I've done this out of order. youtube.com, search my name and see the Momentous playlist there. Jamie, where can people follow you online?
I don't really remember. Twitter.com/Jaskray. Yeah.
Jaskray is kind
of my, And then you can check out the my company website, reynoldscabinetshop.com.
Which we will also include the show notes.
There you go.
Get a brand new fancy kitchen from Jamie.
There you go.
Again, thank you, Jamie. Thank you thanks, Mom and Dad, for watching. Anyone else? We hope your week is truly momentous.